The woman stumbled into the street, boots dragging furrows in the dust, a bundle pressed against her chest. Her lips cracked with thirst, her voice raw, but still she cried out, "Bread, for God's sake! Bread for my child!" The townsfolk froze where they stood. A card game stopped mid-hand on the saloon porch. A blacksmith's hammer stilled above the anvil. Even the horses tethered along the post stamped restless hooves, as if they could taste the desperation on the air. She held the baby high, its whimpers a thin rasp against the hot wind. Take her for a loaf. Please." Her knees buckled, skirts sagging with sweat and road dust. The crowd shifted uneasy, but no one moved forward. From the shadow near the livery, a man stepped into the glare, broad-shouldered, hat brim low, eyes hidden in the dark cut his face. His boot struck the dirt with slow, deliberate weight. No words, no greeting, only the dry creak of leather as his hands hung by his sides. The mother turned to him, her whole body trembling. "You, please, you've land, you've cattle. Bread is nothing to you." Her cry cracked into sobs. She sank to her knees before him, pressing the bundle forward. Take her if it means she'll live." The street hushed to nothing. Even the wind stilled. A boy on the porch whispered, "She's given away her own blood," but the words died when the man halted before her. He looked down, silent. His shadow stretched over her like a curtain. She dared to raise her eyes to his, searching for mercy. None came. He reached past her, slow, steady. For an instant, the crowd thought he might leave her groveling in the dust. But his hand settled on the bundle. The baby stirred, a faint whimper rising. With one arm, he lifted the child against his chest. With the other, he reached into his coat and drew out a loaf of coarse bread, setting it on the ground before the mother. Gasps broke from the onlookers. A woman near the well clasped her mouth. The blacksmith muttered, "Lord above." The rancher said nothing. Not a word, not a nod. He turned, child cradled in his arm, and walked the length of the street. Dust rose with each step, the crowd parting as if the silence itself commanded it. The mother stared at the bread lying in the dirt, her hands hovering as if it burned to touch. Her sobs cracked through the stillness, echoing off the false fronts of the buildings. On the far end of the street, the rancher vanished into brightness, swallowed by sun and dust. His figure left behind only whispers, only questions. The child's faint cry lingered in the air long after he was gone. And somewhere, beneath the murmurs of the town, the silence grew heavier, as though the earth itself had taken note. The baby's cry pierced the hollow rooms, bouncing off bare walls and weathered beams. The ranch house stood alone against the wind, its boards creaking as though they remembered every storm that had torn across the plains. In the fire's glow, the rancher rocked the child in his arms, his face a mask carved by shadows. The child's fists waved in the air, small, desperate. He pressed the bottle against the infant's lips, steady hands guiding, his eyes never leaving the flame in the hearth. The room smelled of old with smoke and dust, silence broken only by the child's hungry gulps. Outside, coyotes howled. The wind rattled a loose shutter. He didn't stir. Only the rise and fall of his chest gave him away, each breath a battle against ghosts that pressed close in the night. On the table lay a worn revolver, barrel glinting faintly in the firelight. Beside it, a faded photograph rested in a cracked frame, edges curled, glass long gone. A woman's face looked out, eyes soft, a baby clutched against her dress. The rancher's hand tightened on the child. His jaw worked, but no sound came. The baby whimpered, and he rocked harder, boots thudding against the old pine boards. The motion carried him backward, into memory. Gunfire cracked his ears. Screams cut through smoke. A cabin burning red against the night. Flames licking the stars. He saw a cradle overturned, splintered in the dirt. Saw his wife's pale arm reach once, then fall still. He saw himself standing there, frozen, while raiders vanished into the dark. The bottle slipped slightly in his grip. He steadied it fast, pulling the child closer, as though the act alone could rewrite time. His breath shuddered, but still he said nothing. A knock echoed at the door. Sharp, hesitant. He turned, shoulders tensing. The child stirred in his arm. Slowly, He crossed the room, boots heavy against the floorboards, and pulled the door wide. The woman stood there. Dust clung to her hair, eyes hollow from hunger, yet fierce in their fire. She looked past him, saw the child against his chest. You kept her alive? Her voice shook, half disbelief, half something else. She stepped forward, but the rancher filled the doorway, blocking her path. His silence pressed between them like a wall. You took her from me. The words trembled into the night, then softer, breaking. But you saved her too. The wind lifted her skirts, carrying the scent of sage and dust between them. The baby whimpered again, and the rancher shifted, holding it steady, eyes locked on the woman. Behind her, across the dark horizon, lanterns flickered from town. Voices carried faintly. Whispers turned into rumors, rumors into judgments. The woman's gaze darted toward the lights, then back to him. They're saying things. They don't understand. The rancher's face did not move. His silence held. The baby's cry rose louder, filling the space where words should have been. The hoofbeats came first, dull thuds rolling across the dry earth, rattling the loose panes in the ranch house. The baby stiffened in the woman's arms, a thin cry rising against the sound. She stepped to the window, pulling the curtain aside with trembling fingers. Lanterns swung in the dark, weaving through the mesquite. 5 riders, maybe 6, their outlines black against the dying glow of the horizon. Spurs jingled as they drew near, the clang of iron bits sharp in the silence. She turned. The rancher already stood at the table, his hand resting on the revolver. His face carried no expression. He strapped the gun belt around his waist, each buckle snapping into place with finality. "They're coming for you," she whispered, though the words felt thin against the rising thunder of hooves. "For us." The rancher lifted his hat from the chair, set it low over his brow. He moved to the door without a word. Outside, the riders fanned out, horses blowing clouds into the cool night air. Their leader spat into the dirt, a grin gleaming in the lantern glow. "Evening, rancher. Heard you took something don't belong to you." The men laughed, a hard, empty sound that carried across the yard. Rifles rested easy in their hands, pistols glinting beneath their coats. The rancher stepped into the open, boots crunching the gravel. His silence stretched, heavy as the night sky. He stood tall, shoulders squared, the brim of his hat cutting his eyes from view. The leader leaned forward in his saddle. "Ain't polite to keep a man waiting. We'll take the woman, the brat, and whatever else you got hid in that shack of yours." The baby whimpered from inside the doorway. The sound cut through the air like a blade. The men snickered, one of them calling, "Best hand her over before she grows teeth." The rancher's hand lowered, fingers brushing the worn grip at his side. The horses stamped, restless. Dust rose, hanging in the lantern glow. The woman clutched the child tighter, heart pounding so loud she swore they could hear it. The leader's grin faltered under the weight of silence. He shifted in the saddle, eyes narrowing. "You gonna stand there staring, or you gonna draw?" The rancher did not move. Not a breath, not a twitch. The night stretched thin, the world holding its breath. A hawk screamed overhead, wheeling against the stars. Somewhere in the dark, a coyote yipped, quick and sharp. The men's laughter faltered. The woman pressed her back to the doorframe, rocking the baby, eyes locked on the lone figure standing in the yard. The leader spat again, voice rough now. "All right then, we'll take what's ours." His hand dropped toward his holster. Steel rasped, leather squeaked. The lantern light caught on metal. The showdown had begun. The leader's pistol cleared leather, but the crack of gunfire came from the rancher's hand. The outlaw toppled backward, lantern light catching the shock in his eyes as he fell. His horse reared, screaming, bolting into the dark. The others shouted, rifles jerking up. Shots split the night, sparks flying off the rancher's porch posts. The woman ducked low inside the doorway, clutching the child tight against her chest. The rancher moved like water over stone. No wasted motion, no sound but the thunder of his revolver. A rider to the left dropped, shoulder torn red, rifle spinning into the dust. Another lunge from the saddle, only to crumple before his boots touched earth. Muzzle flashes burned against the night, Each one met with a rancher's steel whisper. He stepped forward, steady, silent, eyes hard as canyon rock beneath his brim. "Damn ghost!" one outlaw screamed, fumbling at his holster. He never cleared it. The rancher's bullet struck, sending him crashing into the dirt. The yard filled with smoke, horses shrieking, men groaning. Still the rancher advanced, boots grinding gravel, revolver barking rhythm like a funeral drum. Only one man remained, the leader second, face pale, pistol trembling in his hand. He backed toward his horse, spurs jangling. "Stay back! Stay!" His words ended in a cough as the rancher fired once, clean and final. Silence returned, broken only by the faint cry of the baby and the rasp of wind dragging smoke across the yard. Dead men sprawled in the dust, lanterns flickering over still forms. The rancher lowered his gun, barrel smoking. He stood a moment, breathing heavy but calm, then slid the weapon back into its holster. From the doorway, the woman stepped out slowly, baby in her arms. Her eyes swept the bodies, then rose to the man who had felled them. Her voice cracked, soft. You were one of them once." He turned toward her. For the first time, his lips parted. A single word slipped into the night, rough and low. "No." She froze, clutching the child. His gaze dropped to the baby, then back to her. His voice, and used for years, rasped like sand over stone. "Safe now." Her breath caught, tears spilling hot across her cheeks. The baby stirred, cooing softly in the aftermath of gunfire. The rancher stepped past her, into the glow of the house. He lifted the photograph on the table, eyes fixed on it for a long, aching beat. Then he set it down, turning back toward the woman. The night held its breath once more. And from that silence, the legend took root of a man who spoke with bullets, whose silence thundered louder than storms, who took both bread and babe and gave back life.